They will underestimate you. Count on it. They will look at you and see the surface, the past, the setbacks, the silence in the room when you speak your dreams aloud. They will not see the war you fought in the quiet corners of your mind. And that's exactly why you'll win. Because strength that announces itself too early gets tested too soon. But the strongest minds, they sharpen in solitude. They do not bark for approval. They become steel, forged in the unseen, made unbreakable by pressure, shaped by fire no one clapped for. This world doesn't hand crowns to the loudest. It bows to the ones who endured the longest, the ones who kept showing up when the crowd stopped clapping, the ones who learned how to turn pain into persistence, rejection into resolve, failure into fuel. Understand this now, you are in a war, not a war with other people, not a war of bullets or bombs, a war with your own comfort, your own excuses, your own limits. And the only mind that wins this war is the mind that refuses to break. Do you know what that means? It means you must decide right now to stop negotiating with weakness, to stop giving power to your fears like they know the path better than your vision does. It means standing eye to eye with every doubt and saying, well, not today, not ever again. Because greatness does not come by accident. It is not handed out in participation trophies. It is earned, clawed out of discipline, forged in loneliness, carved through failure. Look at history. Lincoln lost election after election before he led a nation through its darkest hour. Edison failed 10,000 times before the world lit up. Disney was told he lacked imagination. Ford was mocked, bankrupt, and branded a lunatic before the assembly line changed everything. Do you think they succeeded because the world gave them a red carpet? No, they succeeded because they refused to bow to the noise. They won because their minds were anchored in something deeper than approval, anchored in vision, in belief, in an unshakable sense of destiny. And you, right now, must do the same. You must build the kind of belief that does not shiver in the face of doubt, the kind of belief that doesn't ask the world for permission to move forward. That belief begins with a decision, to own your mind before the world rents it out. Because here's the truth. Most people are mentally broke, not because they lack intelligence, but because they've outsourced their power. They believe more in what the world says about them than what they say about themselves. But belief is not inherited. It is not gifted. It is built, brick by brick, through action, clarity, and intention. You want to change your life? Then start by changing the conversation in your head. Interrupt the stories that keep you small. Challenge the assumptions you've swallowed whole. Your mind will feed you fear because it's lazy. It wants comfort. It wants safety. But understand this, safety is the enemy of growth. Comfort is the enemy of greatness. Your dreams do not live inside your comfort zone. They live on the other side of risk, the other side of failure, the other side of walking alone when no one believes in you. So stop playing by the rules of the fearful. Stop waiting for clarity to show up before you act. Clarity doesn't come before action. Clarity comes because of action. You will not think your way into confidence. You will act your way into certainty. And yes, you will be afraid. You will stumble. You will fall. But that's the price of admission. The cost of choosing destiny over mediocrity. Because the moment you choose growth, you declare war on who you were. You draw a line in the sand between yesterday's limits and tomorrow's possibilities. And from that moment on, you fight. You adapt. You evolve. You become the storm, not the one waiting to survive it. And in that fight, your discipline becomes your shield. Your habits become your army. Your purpose becomes your sword. And your sword must be sharp. Because this war, the real war, is not fought on grand stages. It's fought in the dark, in the silence. At 4 a.m. or sham, when the alarm goes off and the only voice you hear is the one that says, go back to bed. That is the battlefield. Not the stage, not the moment of glory, but the hours, the weeks, the years that no one sees when your discipline is tested and your resolve is questioned. This is where most fall, not because they weren't talented, not because they weren't gifted, but because they mistook excitement for commitment, They wanted the prize without the process. They were in love with the outcome, but not the cost. But not you. You were not built for half-hearted effort. You were not wired for halfway dreams. You were born to endure the full weight of the process and rise anyway. Because purpose is heavier than passion. Passion feels good. Purpose breaks you open and demands your evolution. Passion fades. Purpose remains. Purpose is what drags you forward when motivation runs dry, when your hands are blistered, when your body aches, when the noise in your mind is screaming louder than the world ever could. You want to build a life that shakes the ground? Then anchor yourself in purpose. A why that burns deeper than your fear. A vision so vivid it survives your worst day. Because here's the raw truth. You don't rise to your goals. You fall to your standards. You become whatever you tolerate. If you tolerate excuses, they multiply. If you tolerate average, it becomes your identity. But if you raise your standards, if you say, "This is who I am and I will not betray it," then you begin to bend reality to your will. And yes, it will be lonely. Growth always is, because elevation requires separation. You will outgrow people, outgrow habits, outgrow entire versions of yourself, and it will hurt. But understand this, pain is the toll you pay for transformation. And every time you choose growth over comfort, you are writing a new story in the muscle fibers of your soul. You are becoming the architect of your own mind, brick by brick, belief by belief. But do not just believe blindly. No, believe boldly. Believe because you've seen what happens when you stop lying to yourself. Believe because you've tasted what it feels like to show up in the rain, in the dark, with nothing but a vision and a heartbeat. Your mind, if left unmanaged, will betray you. It will whisper lies dressed as logic. It will sell you on limitations you never agreed to. So audit it. Train it. Every day. Like a warrior sharpens his blade before battle, sharpen your thoughts. Guard your input. Protect your energy. Feed your soul the kind of fuel that burns clean. Clarity, courage, conviction. Because most people lose not from lack of opportunity, but from mental pollution. They are surrounded by noise, trapped in comparison, enslaved by opinions. They scroll more than they study. They doubt more than they act. They survive more than they live. But not you. You are awake now. You see through the pain. You are not here to blend in. You are here to build, to create, to rise. And rising requires resistance. Resistance builds resilience. Resilience breeds power. So when it hurts, don't retreat. Lean in. When the weight gets heavier, don't wish for lighter loads. Build stronger shoulders, because the war is not over until you win. And winning starts in the unseen, in the grind no one thanks you for, in the tears no one sees, in the doubts you slay in silence. This is where kings and queens are born. In obscurity, in repetition, in relentless pursuit. And yes, it's long. The war is long, but so is your strength, so is your spirit, so is your story. Because empires are not built in a weekend. They are carved across decades of defiance, years of grit, months of showing up when the soul was tired, but the heart still beat with fire. You think Tesla changed the world without obsession? You think Oprah built her kingdom without scars? You think Mandela broke chains without chains first breaking him? No, they suffered, they struggled, but they endured, and because they endured, they transcended. You will too, but only if your mind becomes the fortress, not just protected from fear, but armed with vision, not just hardened by experience, but softened by purpose. You want to win the longest war? Then build the strongest mind. Because your mind is the command center. Every choice you make, every risk you take, every battle you enter, it all starts there. It begins not in the muscles, not in the money, not in the connections, but in the mental patterns you allow to dominate. What you think you become. What you dwell on, you attract. What you repeat, you reinforce. So understand this law. You are never just thinking. You are programming. Every complaint reinforces powerlessness. Every excuse strengthens limitation. Every delay delays your destiny. But every act of discipline, every affirmation spoken with fire, Every time you show up when you could have quit, that's a vote cast for the version of you the world has not yet met, but will, because you're not just chasing a dream. You are becoming the person who can hold it. And that takes inner construction, rewiring, demolition of doubt, and reconstruction of belief. It takes burning bridges to comfort and building highways to your calling. And make no mistake, your calling will cost you. It will cost you popularity. It will cost you sleep. It will cost you the easy path, the shallow praise, the fleeting applause. But in return, it will give you something deeper: peace in your soul, power in your spirit, a life that echoes long after you are gone. This is the legacy war, not for riches, not for clout, but for impact. To become a living embodiment of what's possible when a single human being decides they will not bow to fear. And fear will come. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of outshining the mediocre world that once felt safe. But here's the brutal truth. You either master fear or fear masters you. There is no neutrality in the battlefield of the mind. If you don't plant purpose, weeds of doubt will take root. So you fight with thought, with intention, with intensity. You get up and face the mirror, not to criticize, but to command. You don't ask, will today be easy? You declare, I am ready for whatever it brings. You see, easy is not the goal. Growth is. Greatness is forged in friction, not fantasy. Comfort is a cage, beautifully decorated but deadly. Discipline is a ladder, rugged, sharp-edged, but it leads upward. So if you are suffering in silence right now, good. It means you're still in the fight. And that suffering, if you shape it, will become the raw material of your greatness. Because pressure doesn't break diamonds. It reveals them. And you were not made of glass. You were made of grit. Your scars are not signs of weakness. They are evidence you've survived what others ran from. So wear them like armor. Let them remind you, I've been through worse. I'm still here. And I'm just getting started. Because the strongest mind doesn't avoid storms. It becomes the storm. It doesn't beg the path to get easier. It becomes the force that reshapes the path itself. This is how empires are built. Not by wishing, not by waiting, but by waking up every day and acting like the future already belongs to you. Because it does, if you refuse to hand it over to weakness. So stop outsourcing your power. Stop waiting for the world to validate your vision. Stop asking for permission to be legendary. You do not need a green light. You are the light. Now walk into the battlefield. Your crown is not handed to you. It is forged in the fire of adversity. And every challenge in your way, it's not there to stop you. It's there to shape you. Because life doesn't test the weak. It tests the worthy. And if you're being tested now, then maybe, just maybe, you're being called to rise to something greater than you ever imagined. You've felt it, haven't you? That pull inside your chest, like your soul is being summoned by something beyond logic. That's not fantasy. That's vision. That's destiny knocking. But vision without action is hallucination. And faith without work is dead. So you move, even when your legs shake, even when your voice cracks, even when the odds stack high against you, you move anyway. Because your movement is a declaration. It says, I'm not here to blend in. I'm here to break through. And when you move with belief, the universe moves with you. Not instantly, not all at once, but inch by inch, the walls begin to shift. Because reality doesn't respond to wishes, it responds to will. And willpower, my friend, is the currency of kings. It's what Edison used when the light bulb failed 1,000 times. It's what Mandela used when he spent 27 years in prison but came out free. It's what every world shaker, every mountain mover, every name etched into eternity used when the world said, you can't. And they replied, watch me. That fire, you have it too. But it must be fed by habits, fed by vision, fed by an obsession with becoming more than you were yesterday. Because growth is not a luxury, it's a necessity. The second you stop growing, you start dying. This is why clarity is king. You must know where you're going, or you'll be seduced by every distraction dressed as opportunity. That means cutting the noise, turning down the world, and tuning into your inner voice, the one that whispers at midnight, "You were made for more." That voice is ancient. It's the same one that guided Lincoln through loss, Carnegie through ridicule, Disney through bankruptcy. They didn't just have vision, they had a mind forged in adversity. They saw the invisible and believed in the impossible. Because here's the truth the masses won't tell you. The crowd is comfortable, the elite are clear, the crowd follows trends, the elite create direction, and the difference isn't talent, it's mindset. It's the decision to rise while others sleep, to read while others scroll, to build while others binge. You must develop the clarity to say, "This is who I am. This is where I'm going." And nothing, not doubt, not delay, not detour, will stop me. That's power. Not just loudness, not arrogance, but grounded, unshakable power. The kind that walks into a room and doesn't need to say a word. The kind that commands not through force, but through presence. And presence is earned. It's carved through commitment. It's sculpted by sacrifice. It's magnetized by mental discipline. So stop chasing quick fixes. The strongest mind plays the long game. The war is not won in a day. It's won daily. Every rep you do when no one watches. Every time you say no to comfort. Every moment you choose growth over gratification. That's the war. And most people lose it not because they lack potential, but because they lack patience. They confuse speed with success. They confuse visibility with victory. But you know better. You're not just building a career. You're building a character. You're not just pursuing a goal. You're becoming the person who no longer needs to chase because they attract. That's the highest level. Not to force life to happen, but to become the kind of person life can't ignore. And that comes down to this. What are you becoming when no one is watching? Because that is who you truly are. Not the title, not the followers, not the filtered highlight reel, but the raw, real you, in the dark, in the silence, in the discipline. That's where warriors are built. That's where empires begin. Discipline is not punishment, it's permission. Permission to evolve. Permission to access your future self now. Discipline says, I respect my future too much to betray it today. Because success doesn't ask if you are in the mood. It doesn't wait for you to feel inspired. It demands your presence daily. This is what separates the temporary from the timeless, the weekend warriors from the lifelong winners. Discipline isn't about grinding harder. It's about aligning deeper. It's about choosing to become someone who doesn't need to be pushed because they're pulled by purpose. And here's the paradox most never grasp. True freedom isn't the absence of discipline. True freedom is born from it. The disciplined man moves through chaos with calm. He doesn't panic. He plans. He doesn't react. He responds. He doesn't beg for the storm to pass. He becomes the storm. Understand this. Your habits are your armor. And every day you delay, you hand your power to weakness. You reinforce the identity of the average. But every time you rise, when you don't feel like it, when it's inconvenient, when it's hard, you build the identity of the uncommon. Because the mind, your greatest weapon, sharpens itself in struggle. It thrives in tension. Just like the sword must endure fire, you must endure friction. The path isn't supposed to be easy. If it were, it wouldn't change you. If it were, everyone would do it. You want to know why so few become legends? Because legends are forged in the fires most people run from. They seek the resistance. They chase the struggle because they know inside that pain lives the next level of power. And this is where the weak minds crumble. They see pain as punishment, but the strong mind sees pain as preparation. Preparation for impact, for expansion, for dominion. Because this is war, not a weekend retreat, a war against mediocrity, a war against excuses, a war against your former self who said, maybe someday. Number that voice dies here. You bury it in discipline. You replace it with a roar that says, I will, I must, I am. And when you start showing up like that, the world takes notice. Not right away, but eventually, inevitably, undeniably, because the world responds to energy. And when your mind is aligned, your energy becomes magnetic. Opportunities bend toward you. People trust you. Doors open, not because you asked, but because you became. You became undeniable, unshakable, unstoppable. And that is the reward of a strong mind. Not just success, but sovereignty. Not just achievement, but authority over your life. But to earn that, you must stay in the war longer than everyone else. That's the real test. Not talent, not intelligence, but endurance. How long can you hold the vision? How long can you delay gratification? How long can you walk alone before the world finally sees what you've seen all along? Most can't. They tap out. They fold when the applause fades. They give up right before the breakthrough. But you won't, because you've decided. And that decision, it changes everything. When you decide, truly decide, you flip the switch from hoping to knowing. And that knowing is louder than fear, stronger than doubt, and more permanent than failure. You start to realize nothing was ever missing. Not the talent, not the opportunity, not the luck, just the unshakable decision to refuse to quit. That's the moment the war starts turning in your favor. When you stop begging for ease and start embracing the edge. When you stop chasing results and start chasing mastery. When you stop asking, how long will it take? And start declaring, as long as it takes. That's the mind of the warrior. That's the man the world cannot stop.